What if I told you that this is 12 fluid ounces, and that this is 355 milliliters? Would you think that one has more liquid inside it than the other? I mean, sure, you can see that this bottle obviously has more weight and mass to it, but would you believe that there's actually the exact same amount of liquid inside both of these? Maybe you did know. Perhaps at some point in your life you read the labels and retained the knowledge. Or maybe you're some aspiring math whiz and did the conversion in your head. Whatever. My guess, though, is that most of you don't know the conversion between fluid ounces and milliliters, or miles and kilometers, or inches and centimeters, or pounds and kilograms, or a slug to a newton. Yes, a slug. If you didn't know that a slug is an imperial unit for mass, well, now you do. But why should you care? If you're watching this, you are most likely a concerned American, and definitely not forced to watch this because of a speech class. Hey, class. Or maybe you're just looking for an argument to use. Regardless, let me start with why not switching to the metric system would be a mistake for the United States, and the reason behind that claim. Now, the first question most people ask when approached with this topic is, dude, does it even matter? Why, yes, and I'll give you a $327 million problem as an example, called the Mars Climate Orbiter. This little scandal happened in 1998, and according to NASA.gov, a critical error in measurement caused the orbiter to fly too close to the ground and ultimately get smashed to pieces. What caused the error, you might ask? Well, the team that built it and the team that engineered it were not exactly on the same page, because one used the imperial system while the other used the metric system. And these two systems are definitely not similar enough to give room for error when piloting a multi-million-dollar spacecraft. Which, I might add, was paid for through taxpayer dollars. Although there are other numerous incidents, most of them similar in nature but much smaller in scale, the question is still begged. Why should you care? Perhaps you're like me, a college student who's more worried about paying his tuition than he is taxes, or maybe you're just a lackadaisical adult. The difference, though, is big enough that it's like speaking two different languages. Anata wa baka desu ne. Wakarimasen. Watashi wa nihongo ga wakarimasen desu yo. It's like watching a movie in another language without subtitles. Would you be able to understand it without prior knowledge and education? Sure, you might be able to understand bits and pieces of it due to experience, but just like a movie without subtitles, would you be able to understand the metric system without a converter for the units? Knowing another language is important, and when people think about the languages they know, they usually don't think about the language of measurements, but in all honesty, they really should. Especially because according to a survey done by Huffington Post, more young Americans travel outside the United States in this generation than in any other. But how are they going to communicate various measurements when asking for directions, or for when cooking for others, or even for themselves for that matter? I mean, let's say you go to another country studying abroad, and you say to your host family, hey, tonight's dinner, it's on me. Start looking at the recipe and the ingredients, and you're like, how many grams of salt are in 4? It wants how much vanilla? How much water? Flipping the table and ordering takeout because of your stupidity is not the answer, okay? Why don't they make the metric system our standard system already? It's not like America hasn't tried. The first attempt at a metric conversion was actually done in 1895, but it was later repealed. The second most recent attempt was done in 1975, spearheaded by President Gerald Ford, but again was later repealed. As I stated earlier, probably the biggest reason these moves were repealed is America's general lack of motivation. We're just too lazy. No one wants to be the generation that has to deal with two different measuring systems, always having to do math in your head or look it up, because obviously if the next generation is taught the metric system, they'll be fine. It's just those of us today who don't really know much about it that are going to be screwed over. But in the long run, it'll be worth it. No longer will we make multi-million-dollar mistakes due to different measuring systems. No longer will we be confused about hearing 2 degrees Celsius and wonder, do I need a coat? And no longer will you mess up that amazing Japanese recipe by accidentally cooking it at 350 degrees Celsius instead of 175. But how can we change? I honestly have no idea. It's been America's struggle to get past this mental block of metrication, but some things that might help are first to get some knowledge on the topic. Websites like metricforus.com is a great place to get started and find out how you can get plugged in, or doing research on the next presidential candidate. Because I know there's got to be at least one that's behind this movement. So good luck, my fellow lazy Americans.